thought my intentions were great because who doesn't want a great sex life with their spouse, right?
Today, we're talking with Dan Purcell, founder of Get Your Marriage On and an intimacy coach who's helped thousands of couples rediscover connection in their relationships. What's one thing that almost every sexually vibrant couple does that a struggling couple does not?
I think it's this ability to take full responsibility for yourself and let your spouse take full responsibility for themselves and create a marriage or a relationship where there really truly is room for two people to be.
After one conversation with a friend transformed his own marriage, Dan's been on a mission to help couples break through awkwardness and build deeper intimacy.
When you empower people that sex is about an appetite that you control for a greater good, it's not a fear-based message anymore. It's an empowering message. It's rooted in agency, not in powerlessness.
If you're ready to strengthen your relationship or just don't know where to start, this conversation will give you the tools and the courage you need. Dan, welcome.
Hey, happy to be here, Stu. This is great.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to it. I've checked out some of your stuff and I've been really personally interested and engaged on the topic because it's been a big thing in my life. And
Mhm.
just for anybody listening, would you care to share a little bit about what it is that you do?
Sure. I help married couples improve sex and intimacy in their relationship. I
Mhm.
primarily work with Christian couples specifically because I'm really familiar with the nuances and the challenges and also the strengths that come from having a conservative Christian background as you
Mhm.
navigate sexual intimacy differences and uh, all the good and all the upside and all the usual struggles that come with being married for a long time. And you want to build a very fulfilling and deep and intimate and fun sex life.
Mm. Which I think is such a key piece of a thriving relationship.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you've worked with what seems like, or reached at least over 200,000 people through your podcast and through the coaching. And I'm
Mhm.
curious from your perspective, what's one thing that almost every sexually vibrant couple does that a struggling couple does not?
Oh, there's many factors, but if you had to pin me down on just one, I think it's this ability to take full responsibility for yourself and let your spouse take full responsibility for themselves and create a marriage or a relationship where there really truly is room for two people to be. But it takes a great amount of emotional maturity to handle that. Most couples that struggle sexually, uh, they kind of become an emotional blob where you feel like I can't make a move without it affecting them, and they can't make a move without it affecting me. And we can go into that more in depth if you want. But I think the heart of it is as you learn how to like stand your own ground, so to speak. Uh, it actually puts you in a position where you can actually truly love, actually truly be intimate, actually truly be interested in someone else as
Mhm.
the whole person, and the sexual relationship at that point becomes electric because
Mm.
there's real depth there. It's not just about bodies, it's about soul to soul. It's about transcendent experiences that you can really deeply enjoy together.
Mm. I love that. What does full responsibility actually look like in practice?
Yeah. Well, maybe I could tell you a short story
Sure.
from my own marriage. Not my best moment. So, like any marriage, my marriage uh, at one point had significant sexual desire differences. And that's very common. Every marriage, you're going to have differences in desire. I wanted sex often, my wife less so. And I thought she was the problem. Like, come on, why don't you just want it? I just wish you'd let go of your old ideas about sex. I just wish you would like just grow and develop your sexuality like I am trying to do. Like that was my
Mm.
attitude about it. And I viewed the problem in our relationship as she's the bottleneck. Like I feel stuck. I feel powerless. I'm out of like she holds all the cards and all the control in the
Mhm.
relationship when it comes to sex, and I didn't like that. And if only she, you know, changed and improved, things would get better. Now it's very normal to think that. I think that's natural to think that way, and I think it's all serves to our development. Um, but uh, so I tried all the things like, hey, I think we should go to this marriage retreat. What I'm really saying is, I think you need to go to this marriage retreat. I think we should read this book together. I think you should read this book together. I think, at least that's like, I thought my intentions were great because who doesn't want a great sex life with their spouse, right? It's just I'm not taking full responsibility for myself in that. And it sounds like I am because I'm suggesting the ideas. And then she'd say no. I'm like, see, I tried. But what I really wanted was to be right more than I wanted to be a good partner. I felt better because at least I tried, and she shut me down as more evidence of how right I am in the relationship rather than really like calming myself down and like moving in close, mentally, psychologically, whatever you want to call it, and just what's going on for you. I can help me see why this is hard for you, not to change your mind, but just to understand. Do you see how that's a very different move? It's a much more intimate move, but it's scary because if I actually let my guard down enough to really understand her, I might lose some of my position,
Mm.
the control that I want to exert, the uh, uh, if if I was trying to be like strategic or like a chess move, like I'm going to get her this, it would mean revealing my cards, revealing my position, right? It's a very vulnerable, psychologically vulnerable place to step into,
Mm.
but it's the only way to really build an intimate relationship is to really step in at that depth. So one particular day, I had this book I thought was great. It was written for women on how to embrace their sexuality. And it was a great book. Like every page, I'm like, oh, this is so good. Like highlight it, underline it, like mark notes in the margin. And to my wife, like, pay attention to this part. This is good. Or they would recommend an exercise, like, you should totally do this. And put it on like her side of the nightstand, and it didn't move for a whole week.
Mm.
Like, come on. And so I put it on her pillow, and then it went right back to the nightstand. Like, and then I confronted her about it. How come you haven't, picked up this book? And she's like, how can I? I'm busy. I'm a mom. We have 6 children, and
Mm.
she's home with the kids, and she homeschools. She does a lot of the meal prep. She's a taxi driver. As you can imagine, life is
Mm.
so busy. And she's like, I can, like, showering without being interrupted is like a luxury. I can't even use the bathroom without like kids trying to talk through the door to me. And you expect me to find time to sit down and read a book about sex? Like, that's the least of my worries right now. And although it was highest on my priority list, it was lowest on hers. And it just made me realize in that moment that any effort I'm trying to do to get my wife to change is me not taking full responsibility for myself, because
Mm.
ultimately the only person that can change her is herself.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I couldn't tolerate at that time, at that lower level of maturity, a marriage where um, she could have an opinion different than me when it came to sexual intimacy, because I felt I was so right in what I thought was good for our marriage, because it was what I wanted, that
Mm.
I really couldn't relinquish that to give room to someone else. So it does take a bit of strength. So taking full responsibility for yourself also means like, okay, how am I being controlling here? How am I being manipulative? How am
Mm.
I trying to orchestrate certain outcomes that actually don't really involve investing in her,
Mm.
um, it's, and so on. How's
I
that?
love that. I love that. Yeah, no, I love the story and the analogy, and it's a lot comes up for me there, and I think first of all, I've been guilty
Uh-huh.
most of my life actually of taking on projects rather than partnerships.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I've fallen in love or connected with this aspirational idea of what I thought a woman could be rather than meeting, the person who's in front of me and loving them fully where they're at. And
You
I've
like
been
the
guilty of
idea
that.
of them, but you don't
E-
like them, or whatever.
Well, and right. I mean, I did like them, but I was
Uh-huh.
always, pushing to this aspirational place rather than being able to love them fully where they were at.
Oh, right. I see.
And I think that's, something that bringing awareness to that and really actually just loving this individual fully and knowing that they are a sovereign human uh,
Hmm.
who's able to make their own choices. Sometimes I'll like them, sometimes I won't like those choices. And that's part of actually building a life with another human. And I think it is what you what you said is like it's really vulnerable. It's really challenging. It's not always going to go the way I want it, and vice versa. I'm going to make decisions that's also going to let my partner might not want the most. But you mentioned intimacy, and I think of the breaking that down into me. See,
Yes.
it is
Yes.
incredibly vulnerable, and I've had the tendency of wanting to be right
Hmm.
ra- rather than protecting connection in the relationship. And I think that's something that I know a lot of people listening would also relate to, not only in intimate partnerships, but in all of our relationships. This idea of, the ego gets in the way. And I really have to check myself. I had a situation last night. We're building a house, we're doing all these things, and we were both on the land. And I thought we were rolling, we're getting the siding on, winter's coming, it's going to be all tight and sealed up. And I come home, I'm tired, but we're accomplished. We got 3 out of 4 sides of the house done, and she's not happy. And
Hmm.
she wanted more affection. She wanted
Uh-huh.
more, just some love. And I had a really hard time receiving that last night. And I got defensive. I felt the anger come up because was telling myself I'm not appreciated, I'm not
Uh-huh.
understood, and all of, that story where all
Hmm.
she needed in that moment was to be heard, to be seen. And that could have dissolved instead of leaving, lingering tension in the air and all of the stuff like so. I think that ability to check the ego and, to ask also like what's best for the relationship, not just
Hmm.
what do I want here in this situation? Oh, I want to be heard and understood. Why doesn't she? But how do I come back to connection? How do I come back to what serves the growth and what we're actually building together? I think is something that I was pulling out of what you were sharing.
That's good. That's really good. I like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's back coming to that concept of making room for two people in a relationship. Because sometimes it's a both and. Like her point of view is completely and perfectly valid, but so is yours. It doesn't mean her reality needs to prevail or your reality needs to prevail. Then it becomes a power struggle.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, I can really see your point and it is completely valid. I have a point too, and it's valid too.
Hmm.
And how do you, so the truth is somewhere in the middle there. It's going to be reconciling that paradox sometimes, but
Right.
it's not so black and white all the time.
Mm. I like what you said there, reconciling the paradox.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, we'll get in these intellectual things and try and almost this, intellectual one-upmanship to
Hmm.
see who's got the better point, whose will
That's the power
prevail rather.
struggle, right?
That's
Uh-huh.
the power dynamic, right? And instead, it's like, how do we just come together so that both people feel seen, heard, and understood
Hmm.
so that we can actually see each other and love each other even more?
Right.
You talk about the responsive versus spontaneous desire patterns
Oh
being one of the
yeah.
biggest misconceptions about sex. Can you
Yes.
break that down for us? Because that's
Yeah.
something I'm not even that familiar with.
Sure. And I'm going at this from a very Western science perspective.
Hmm.
The in our Western culture, one of the biggest breakthroughs in scientific uh, understanding of of human sexuality was in the 50s and 60s and early 70s
Mm.
with two researchers called Masters and Johnson. They were I think, in St. Louis at the time, and they invited people coming into their lab and hooking up with all sorts of sensors, and then having them have like observing their body go through as they experience sexual behavior. And they charted all this, and 10,000 individuals later, they can definitively say, this is how humans have sex. This is what happens physiologically. And they came up with this four-phase framework. It always starts with um, arousal, and then after a bit of arousal, it comes to like a plateau phase where arousal is up, but it kind of stays flat for a moment. and then you have an orgasm phase or a climax phase, and then a resolution phase. So 4 phases. Like, this is universal, men and women, we all do this. And then they develop therapies around helping people who have trouble with uh, all 4 of those stages. Like, you might have trouble having an orgasm, but you can get aroused fine and you can plateau fine. We're going to come up with therapies around that. So the model of
Hmm.
sex therapy as it was emerging was really based on this scientific approach. Later on, we have other people that add other ideas, like Helen Singer Kaplan comes in the 80s and says, wait a minute, I think desire is important. Like, before you have arousal, you need desire, because she's working with people and as a sex therapist and realizing it's not about arousal, it's not about orgasm, it's about desire. So she
Hmm.
added, like, to their 4 phase model a step before that called desire. And then the whole community celebrates, yes, advancement. We're understanding this better. This is a much better approach. It's more real. Like, we don't have sex like animals do. There's a very human component to this. Desire matters. And then in the 2000s, another researcher whose name just escaped me, starts with a B. She's like, I think there's more to it than that. And her model is a lot more complex. But she recognizes that for many individuals, the idea of desire comes first and then arousal follows. That's like me. I see my wife stepping out of the shower. uh, it's a visual cue. My body like goes, "Oh yeah," and then desire shows up. Like, arousal comes right away. But I'm a pretty fit guy. I step out of the shower. My wife sees me. For some reason, it doesn't have the same effect on her, right? And for almost half the population, they say about 40% of the population in the United States, as they study, it's actually desire doesn't show up until there's been some arousal first. So the order is reversed. In other words, you don't even desire sex until you're getting some sort of stimulation that you find arousing, and then desire shows up later.
Hmm.
So in most heterosexual marriages that are long term, in just you take a wide swath of the population, generally speaking, men are more spontaneous and women are more responsive. And spontaneous is a little bit easier for people to grasp because that's the Hollywood model. This is early on in the relationship. Also, there's a lot of spontaneous desire. It's like you have sexual desire and it's coming out of nowhere, it feels like. Because in the movies, they like look at each other, they start kissing, they start panting, and then clothes come off. And then, right, it feels so like easy in that way. And then you're married for a while and you're like, actually, I think something is wrong with my wife because she doesn't respond the same way as the movies do. Well, there's nothing wrong with her. You're wrong in that you have the wrong model. So, responsive desire, again, is when there's got to be some sort of a stimulation first, and then the desire shows up.
Hmm.
And this really hit home to me when it came to I got a home gym like 3 years ago, which I absolutely love and I hate. Because I'm getting a little older and I need to do more strength training. And I it's not my favorite form of exercise. Like, I don't wake up in the morning like, I can't wait to move some weight today, right? I know some people do, but that's just not me. But I put myself, I get the clothes on, I go out to where the gym is, and I start a little bit, and I'm hating it for the first few minutes. Like, I hate this. I'd rather be doing all these other things instead. But you know what? My body warms up to it, and I start feeling good. I'm feeling strong. And then by the end, I don't want to stop. Like, this is great. A new PR today. Like, I'm doing, like, it feels really good. That's responsive desire. I have responsive desire when it comes to weightlifting. Like, desire doesn't come first. Like, I got to be in the moment. I got to be doing it first. Like, the stimulation has to be happening first, and then desire happens later.
Hmm.
Once couples really can grapple and understand their responsive and their spontaneous desire patterns better in their relationship, it solves so many problems and so much conflict immediately. Because you're like, oh, wait, there's a lot of value in being married or partnered with someone with a responsive desire pattern. And there's a lot of value being married to someone with a very spontaneous desire pattern. You need both long term. It's like a yin and a yang. They both offer a lot of strengths. And when you can honor and see like, oh, I see you're responsive. I know how to work with a responsive desire person, or it kind of has that sort of a pattern. And they're like, oh, you're spontaneous. I know how to work with someone with more spontaneous desire. It solves a lot of conflicts.
Mm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've also had it, this is probably tangentially related, but explained to me in a way of, as a generalization, men typically open up more emotionally, with physical intimacy, and women
Hmm.
tend to open up more physically with that emotional
Yeah,
intimacy.
right, right. In fact, I think there's a biological reason for that too. Let's take men versus women. Generally speaking, men are larger, women are smaller. In a sexual encounter, it's far more vulnerable for a woman to engage sexually than a man.
Mm.
Women have 3 times the likelihood of contracting a sexually transmitted infection compared to men, just because of anatomy. Also, what could be 6 minutes for a man for women could turn into 9 months of pregnancy and 18 years of child rearing. So, don't you think Mother Nature would program in for women to be a little
Hmm.
more cautious about who they're letting into their body? I
Hmm.
mean, this person's bigger than me, can overpower me easier, and this activity is no small thing. So they're going to be a lot choosier about who they let in. So, wouldn't it
Mm.
make more sense that connecting emotionally first, like I, even even if it's like you're not trying to have kids, right? Or like, but the programming is real and it's deep. Like, I want to know who you are because I want you to know. I want to know that I can really trust myself with you,
Right,
let you in. So,
right.
not saying there. Now, there's a lot of there's a whole spectrum. There's women that
Of course.
gonna, yeah, of course, they find more ease moving into sex, like physical intimacy faster. But generally speaking, I think there's a reason for that, and it's a good reason. But once you understand that, now you're like, as a man who cares about the person you're married to or you're partnered with, it makes sense why investment is so important.
Hmm.
You're going to invest in that relationship not because you hope to get sex, but because investment, because you care about this person. And I think women are very highly attuned to receiving, like knowing investment, because it takes a strong man to want to invest in a woman for her. It's not, this isn't for weaklings. It takes a strong man to really invest in someone.
Mm.
Um, and that's the kind of relationship where sexual intimacy becomes a lot more easier. It's a lot more natural.
Makes
It's
total
a
sense.
natural outgrowth of the relationship.
And I also, something I've been thinking about, that as you're talking, what's coming up for me is this idea of a high value man. And I think one aspect of what makes a man high value is that he's not easy to get. That he's also very committed to pouring into one individual, rather
Uh
than,
huh.
just doing the thing pursuing that biological urge to spread the seed everywhere.
Uh huh.
Instead, he is committed. And, from me, what I would define as commitment is the elimination of all other possibilities, all other
Yeah.
options.
Yeah.
So if he is committed, then his value is naturally high because he's
Mm-hmm.
not easy to access.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Yeah.
a different take on this idea of, especially in men, with a lot of men, we celebrate this idea of being promiscuous, this idea of, oh, attaboys.
Uh
Uh,
huh. Uh huh.
I don't think it's the most helpful.
And no, no. In fact, my perspective on that's changed dramatically this year
Hmm.
alone. So, uh, side tangent. I also love entrepreneurship and business. I'm a student of it for years. And there's one aspect of entrepreneurship I've always wanted to try, which is acquisition entrepreneurship. So I've looked at deals, I've come close to making an acquisition, but never quite pulled the trigger until this year. I made my first acquisition. It was
Congrats.
cool. It's an adjacent business that complements my own. And uh, one thing I didn't realize it's a separate business, separate team, separate, like a different business model. Now I have two jobs.
Mhm.
And uh, I'm splitting my time from business A, which is the main business that I've done for a while, and business B, this new one. And as I split my time more, business A starts to struggle because I'm not giving it the full attention that it needed. Business B needs a lot of my attention and nourishment, but it's struggling too. But I feel like I really can't go very deep on A or B,
Mm.
and it's causing new problems that I did not anticipate. And I think in a relationship too, like you said, we eliminate all other options. That's a sign of strength too. To be sexually committed to one person, the world might say, "Wait, that's not fun. What about ethical non-monogamy?" That's kind of a trend, and I'm not to judge those that enjoy that kind of a lifestyle, but there's a different level of intimacy that can come when you have one that you're going to exclude all other options and go really deep with one. And I've been thinking about it too. Anyone, well, very rare exceptions, those that are successful in business have figured out how to go deep on one thing, very deep on one thing, and do it very, very well. And there's more, that's so much better than like the ADHD style of like a little here, a little here, a little here, a little here, there. Like I own a laundromat and a marketing agency, and I manufacture custom chocolates for high-end uh, trade shows. Like we're going to be very scattered, and you think you're diversifying, but that strategy doesn't work
Mm.
if you want to be really good at one thing in business. I think the same comes with our relationships. You learn how to go really deep with one person and let them in really deep. And if you're, that's, I think, a type of intimacy that is wonderful, can bring an incredible amount of joy that that you won't find in any other way.
I agree with you, Dan. And maybe a couple years ago, I wouldn't have. Because interestingly enough, for probably the last 10 years, I had been, well, prior to, in my current relationship with my fiance, I had been pursuing ethical non-monogamy. Thinking, well, I just want novelty. I want that chasing hits of dopamine, honestly.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And, really, I'm a fiery person and I love pursuing the
Mm-hmm.
passion. And every time, I'd enter a relationship, that would naturally, the hedonic adaptation would kick in and the dopamine spikes wouldn't come as much. And I didn't have the skills, the tools, or the capacity developed to actually bring that into my primary relationships. And so my energy directed elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed in that, not only one, I couldn't keep a relationship, I kept
Mm-hmm.
leaving them, but two, I mean, how would a woman that I would ever be with feel safe, trusted, respected if every time I have a sexual urge, my thoughts going elsewhere? I see a woman at the gym, I see a barista at the coffee shop, I have, going on to porn or wherever it is. If all of my energy is being directed elsewhere,
Outside of the relationship, yeah.
outside of the relationship, how is
Mm-hmm.
she going to feel chosen? How is she
Uh-huh.
going to feel attracted? All of these things that naturally, as we were talking about earlier, create that more responsive desire.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
I never brought it to my relationships, and I never even created the opportunities to build novelty with one person,
Mm-hmm.
find the different ways to bring it and all these different things. I was massively unequipped. And I think I was, as a result of that, looking to ethical non-monogamy to solve that problem for me. Unfortunately, it never did. And fortunately, also, it never did, because
Uh-huh.
it led me back to a path of depth and finding freedom in commitment. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
like, I used to think that committing to somebody was,
Restraining.
restrictive. Yes.
And it
Now
is.
I've
It, to a
felt the
degree, it
free.
is.
it,
Uh-huh.
it is, but when you also
Constraint.
don't have to
Uh-huh.
make infinite amount of choices, that's liberating.
That's true. In fact, if you want to get really creative in life, give yourself a constraint
Right. It
and you'll
loves
get
that.
creative. You only have 10 minutes to, I don't know, stack um, spaghetti noodles attached to marshmallows. Ever do that kind of thing? You get really creative really fast compared to you have all day to do it.
Right.
Not as creative.
100%. 100%. And that allows kind of like a flashlight too, right? It just directs the
Yes, the
energy.
beam. Yes.
Yes. Rather than this diffuse energy that I'd spent, and it never felt as fulfilling as I thought. And I think that's been such a game changer. And so everything you were just saying, all to say is I really agree with what you're saying, because for me, I thought that was not the case. And I was really pursuing, the idea of the free that came from the free love movement and all of these
Mhm.
things. And it did not serve me in the way that I had hoped it would.
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
so good. And research backs it up too. If you, a lot of sex researchers try to identify who's having the best sex, who's having and it's those that have been together 30, 40 years. Like, as far as
Is that right?
when measured, maybe not in terms of like orgasm per se. I mean, that's an important part, but as far as like sexual experiences where you walk out of the bedroom a different person than you walked
Mm,
in, like transcendent experiences that really move you, that shape your soul, that are, and I can go into a little more of the science of that in just a minute, but it takes 20, 30 years of investment, and you start reaping those rewards. It's not an overnight thing.
mm. Care to share more about the science?
Sure. You've heard of the term neuroplasticity,
Yes. Yeah.
which is the ability for our brains to rewire itself, which is an amazing capacity. Our best learning happens when we're in a state where we can be really neuroplastic and whatever. Well, studies show when you're highly sexually stimulated, that's when our brains are in the most neuroplastic state.
Mm,
So if you want to rewire your brain, high levels of sexual stimulation is a great place to be. And I'm not saying like porn per se,
right.
but let's say you've had a history of um, low self esteem, maybe some abuse, difficult childhood. Now you're in a relationship. You want to heal those things. Really good sex is a very powerful medicine that can help rewire your brain, learn to trust again, learn to have deeper self confidence,
Mm,
become less reactive and more present. Like all of those things, all those skills, uh, we call them skills, but it's that brain state that helps support that, can happen through positive sexual experiences repeated over and over.
why is that? And particularly with one individual repeated over and over versus a one night stand or porn? Like, what's happening there in particular?
This is my opinion. I don't know the science here. My opinion is if it's a one night stand, it's going to be very novel, right? That's
Hmm.
exciting. It's going to be different, but I don't know this person.
Right.
So the wiring is going to be very different in that case. Um, and also, I think it's a myth to think like casual sex. And this is also, I wish I could cite the source, but another study I read is, well, maybe it's not a study. I think it was Dr. Esther Perel. She's a
Awesome.
well-known. She's out of New York. She's from Belgium, I think. She's a sex researcher, and she's got a great media presence. So she's popular for her views on sex. She so Dr. Perel says there's no such thing as casual sex. It's sex because these are two bodies pressed up against each other in the most vulnerable state you can be. Your brain is going all the time, right? It's going to be on high alert. It's going to evolve. It's going to react to what's going on, for good or for ill. There's no such thing as a casual sexual encounter. It does change our state. It does change us. So, um, uh, I think it's a myth to think we could just have casual sex and move on to the next person without it affecting us, because it absolutely always does affect us.
Mm. That makes total sense. And I think even, in terms of that neuroplastic pathway, or the ability to heal some of these old wounds, is like, one of my mentors often has told me, we're wounded in relationship and we heal in relationship. And I think even in the context of a sexual connection with a romantic partner, sex is something that's incredibly vulnerable. You're naked, you're exposed, you're bringing up some of these potentially old wounds, old stories of, inadequacy.
Mm-hmm.
And to be with somebody that that you trust has your best interest in mind, that loves you, that it's not going to leave the next day, and you can have these experiences of, you know peak peak arousal, connection, you know massive amounts of dopamine flooding, serotonin. You feel good, and then the next day they're still there, and you can continue to water that. From my perspective, I think that would add so much more capacity to rewire the brain than just, oh, there, that was a great experience, sure, one night stand, super fun.
Uh-huh.
But where's that level of depth of connection of, this thing that we're actually building on,
Mm-hmm.
to continue to build the pathways, right? It's like, if we're working on a highway, it takes time to build the road. It takes
Right,
time
right,
to build these new pathways, not just one night and we got a new highway.
right, right. I thought of a story, if that will
Yeah.
help kind of button this up. This isn't my story. This is I got it from the book. It's called Passionate Marriage, written by Dr. David Schnarch. He's one of the most foremost sex therapists in the country. And he has a client come in. Their presenting symptoms are he has erectile dysfunction. He can get aroused, but the moment he penetrates his wife, he loses the erection. And this has been a pattern in their marriage for years and years and years. And she's fed up with it. She she wants to have sex with a man, not like someone that goes soft on him immediately on penetration. And it bothers her. She wants a more fulfilling sexual relationship with him. But he's like, always shrugs it off, like, I can't help it. It's just what happens. So they're working with a therapist for a while, and really digging into what's going on behind the scenes psychologically. And he says to the man, like, so you lose your erection, you still have a tongue, you still have fingers. What stops you from just really uh, giving it to your wife? And he thought about it and thought about it. And he doesn't, because he doesn't want to be intimate. Like, he doesn't want to open his heart intimately. And they didn't have the words or the vocabulary for it, but at the moment, his wife, like, that's what it is. I'm having sex with you, but it's not an intimate experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your body is tucked in mine, but it's not. I don't feel your heart. I don't feel your and you're not invested in me. It's like you're kind of closed off, and you want to be there because you like the idea that I initiate. You like the idea that I'm sexy, but you lose your erection. It's almost like you're telling. It's like a signal to me that you really aren't invested in what's going on, and that you won't give me oral, or you won't touch me is a sign of that. Anyway, he did not like hearing that. Of course, that was not what he wanted to hear. But he also directed it to the wife, like, how come you haven't asked for it? And she's like, she didn't like hearing that either. Like, I'm supposed to ask, like, you're supposed to just know, right? But she had to confront too that it it means sticking her neck out there, saying,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to do me orally. And him saying no is going to really hurt her feelings. So to guard her own ego, she wasn't asking for it either. So I'm saying they're both have a role to play in this dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fast forward a week, they're having sex. He loses his erection. And what they usually do after that is, I I think they just clean up and stop, or maybe she uses a vibrator. I don't know. She usually just gives herself that orgasm, and then they go to bed. That's their usual pattern. But that night, she said, "I I don't want you to get the vibrator. I want you to do me orally. And she just left it at that. But it wasn't like, I'm mad at you. It wasn't like, you owe this to me. It's like, this is just what would I your investment. I want to have a
Mhm.
closer relationship with you. I want you to be. He like stewed there for like, he was so angry, like half hour. It's like, no, like, no, I don't have to do this. It's whatever. And then like 15 minutes later, like, okay, maybe I can. Whatever. I think it was very silent for an hour in the dark. And he finally like gets up, and she thought he's like going to go use the bathroom, like just be done. But he comes back and he starts doing her orally. And it was actually really hot. And she climaxed. And uh, it was a very positive experience because she stood up for herself, but not out of like, you owe me, but like she stood up for herself out of self-respect.
Mm.
And that move, seeing someone take a step that's very self-respecting, challenged him. And he had to learn how to let go of his ego in that moment. And he, within that mess, he had to find his own self-respect and come back and go, I, I, all right, I have a decision to make. What kind of a man am I going to be? I can roll over and go to bed and like punish her for this. Or am I really, she's asked investment. I hate him. It's scary, but I think that's what I want to be.
Mm.
And that's the move they made. That's what I mean by the neuroplasticity. This is
Mhm.
what I mean by the
Mhm.
change that happens. It's not the chemicals in the brain per se, although that helps. But do you see how sexual experiences and confronting ourselves sexually put us in situations that force our development and our growth? So you might be married a while, and sex might get really boring for you because it's the same position, same style. And there's, by the way, there's nothing wrong with having the same script over and over. But that boredom eventually is going to push you to evolve, to change something else. Or because you got to make a choice. I either need to stick my neck out here and risk, let's try something else and deal with those consequences, or deal with the consequences of boredom. Like, they're both bad options, but eventually you got to choose which is the worst of the two
Mhm.
and go with the lesser of the two evils. Usually it's going to be, I'm going to push myself for more novelty here, or introduce something that will bring us closer again. And that drives our development. So
Mm.
that's the picture that I see. I think dopamine's great. You can't have sexual arousal without dopamine. It's and oxytocin are the two main neurochemicals that drive sexual arousal. So I'm not like against dopamine per se. We want lots of dopamine because that just makes for great erections, and, right? And gets you hard. Um, but it's chasing novelty for novelty's sake, with, and then losing the relationship and developmental growth that goes in it. That's what you got to watch out for.
Yep.
But
Agreed. That's the booby trap. That's
yeah,
the booby trap of dopamine.
pun
And
intended, but yes.
oh man, that's funny. As someone working in a faith-based context in particular, how do you help couples reconcile some of those religious teachings about sex
Mhm.
with the reality of maintaining passion and eroticism in a long-term marriage?
Yeah, I, there's many aspects to this. I think if you dig deep into the Christian theology, like into the roots of it, I think most people will find that Christianity is a very sex positive theology. The teachings are crystal clear that, in my opinion, we have a God that loves sex and delights in sexual intimacy, and there's it's original good. But I think there's a big difference between our theology and our culture.
Mm.
And this is true for any religion, even if you're not a religious person. Like our ideals and how we actually live are going to be separate. And we've inherited a lot of, and Christians are not immune to the bigger cultural surroundings that we're in, because we're human. Like we live in a world, right? We're always suspect to cultural influences. So um, a lot of conservative Christian cultures traditionally have adopted more uh, messages around sexual intimacy that um, are fear based. And when you adopt values that are about sex is dangerous, it's something I need to clamp down, it's something I need to, um, like, for example, a lot of women may be grow up in a culture where they're taught you need to cover up and dress up. You need to dress, they use the term modestly or modesty, so that you don't tempt boys because you're accountable for the men that you entice. And um, uh, the reason why that's problematic is it's um, it's a question of agency. Like the way you dress uh, may have an influence on other people, but the way they respond is still their choice. So, but it's problematic messaging because now you frame it as you're responsible for other people's actions or inactions because of the way you dressed, and that's not the full picture. I don't think that's an accurate way. Now, of course, I think people should dress appropriately for whatever occasion they are. Um, I think modesty is a wonderful virtue. Modesty is the idea of I'm not here to flaunt or brag or um, um, call undue attention to myself. Like, we want to be, modesty is a wonderful virtue to have. But when you make modesty equals wearing these clothes, and that now you've confused a dress code with the greater concept of modesty, and that can be problematic. That's just one example of many. But so those with a conservative background, sex is bad. Um, it's harmful. It can cause a lot of damage. You need to clamp down your sexual feelings. But and then you're married, then it's okay. And a lot of couples struggle, or individuals, I should say, struggle with the no, 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 yes, 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 like with that switch.
Mm.
Um, um, and it's not because, um, and it's usually because of the idea that it was a fear based teaching. If you were told all your life that brownies are bad, bad people eat brownies, and if you like brownies, it means there's something wrong with you. Like it will do one of two things. One is you'll start judging everyone else that eats a brownie. Like they're like brownie eaters are bad. Another thing it might force you to do is make you a closet brownie eater. And when you do, you're gonna like eat as much as you can and stuff it down as fast as you can, and uh, then you're gonna feel guilty, right? It's that binge and purge kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, and it's rather than brownies are part of life. Brownies are a great dessert, but like anything else in life, it needs to be controlled. It needs to be appetites need to be managed. So I enjoy it because it's there for your enjoyment. But eating too many brownies is not good for you either. So you learn how to like. It's all about if when you empower people that sex is about an appetite that you control for a greater good. It's not a fear-based message anymore. It's an empowering message. It's rooted in agency, not in powerlessness. And I think if we had more of those messages, especially to
Mm-hmm.
our youth and those looking for a healthy long-term sexual partnership, and just the value of commitment in that. I think we would we'd be live more true to our original theology and
Mm-hmm.
not to the cultural way things have played out. Because I think true to Christian theology is this idea of agency. It's about healthy moderation, but it's about enjoying pleasure uh, in its right context. It's not anti goodness. It's about taking what we have and bringing more good into the world. And that's, uh, I think that message has traditionally gotten lost. So as I work with Christian couples, they kind of need to grapple with like, wait, my pastor said, um, you know, if I look on a woman and I start to feel lustful feelings for her, I've already committed adultery in my heart. Um, and I go to the coffee shop and that barista is pretty. Am I committing adultery with her? Like, um, well, I don't think you're committing adultery with her, right? And I can't judge that, but I do know that finding someone else attractive is part of being human. But it's how you choose to respond in that moment, I think, is what's really telling. So, are you going to act on it? Are you going to entertain that thought? Are you going to just notice it and move on? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many more options here. Just because something happens to you isn't where, like, it's it. What is it? Between stimulation and response, there is a space. That's the famous Franklin Covey quote, right? Which he got from Man's Search for Meaning. There's that space. That and so we need to talk more about that space, not about the stimulation or what's happening to you. So these are the concepts that I work with Christian couples primarily, and I think they benefit a lot from because it's a little more honest, it's a little more real, it's taking them back to their roots of what the theology really teaches, not just what the culture has taught or what they've absorbed through the culture.
Makes a lot of sense. I love your distinction between theology and culture in particular,
Mhm.
and also just not accepting any kind of framework that is fear based because it compromises our prefrontal cortex and our ability to choose. So, I think that's a good rule for life as well, not just sexually or relationship wise, but anything that is hijacking our ability to actually be in that space and that the gap between the stimulus and the response, like it has to come back to agency and personal choice and personal responsibility. So I love that a lot. And I'm
Mhm.
curious to talk about the bedroom creativity piece. When
Woohoo!
couples come to you saying that their sex life has become routine, what's
Uh-huh.
your first piece of advice? What
Well,
small shift makes the biggest difference, I guess?
um, think about something you want to try in bed that you've always been afraid to voice and voice it.
Mm,
It's going to be scary, but do it. It's an act of intimacy to reveal your mind, your erotic mind, your dirty mind to your partner, right?
mm,
That's hot and scary and intimate. But that's
mm,
it. There's no like it's no it's not rocket science beyond that. But that being said, there's I think healthy doses of novelty are absolutely essential for long-term relationships. You gotta keep it fresh. Now, there's two kinds of novelty. There's the horizontal kind and there's the vertical kind. Horizontal, think of it like water skiing. You're on the surface. You don't go deep, but you can cover a lot of ground or a lot of water in this case. Or you can scuba dive. That's where you go really deep in one area. Um, uh, Things like sex toys, lingerie, new locations, new positions, role playing, um, tantric approaches towards sex, you name it. I think all those would add a lot of. That's like the water ski. It's a lot of surface. It tends to have a shorter shelf life. Like it's fun and exciting, but after 2 weeks, the novelty of that might wear off. So it's not so much it's not a silver bullet to go buy a new sex toy and then you're gonna be cured of boredom forever. That's not how it works because it's a surface level solution. And it's not a bad solution. There's nothing wrong with that per se. Uh, The scuba diving approach, the vertical novelty, is going deep with one person. And I have a story about this. My wife is more on the shy side. She is not the party planner type personality. She's not the let's call friends over and do something kind of a person. And one year around Christmas time, she heard this. She's also very musically gifted. She heard this music piece, this 8-part choir. So it's not just 4-part harmony, it's 8-part harmony. Like it's complex, right? She's like, I really want to put this together and see if we can sing it in church for like one of our Christmas programs. So she found singers, organized it, led the whole thing, brought people to her house, practiced it, like everything, and performed it. And seeing my wife do something that's kind of out of her character, but like really lead in one area, it was so hot for me because I'm seeing a different aspect of my wife. So when we're making love, my wife is my wife, Emily is Emily, but it's a new Emily. It's a different Emily. It's Emily, but it's a, like it's kind of like the old Russian nesting dolls, right? The core is still her, but now it's a different outside. It's a different type of her. It's a different dimension of her. And is um, I think if we take the time to us personally to grow who we are, and this might mean learning new skills, trying new hobbies, signing up for that class that you always wanted to do but never did, or learning how to cook a new food that you've always wanted to try. It's as we continue to grow and develop ourselves, never stop doing that. We become interesting again, all over again to our spouse.
Mm.
Also, pay attention to your spouse as they evolve and change because they will continue to evolve and change as a person. So that's what I mean by the vertical novelty. Same person, new dimensions because they are an evolving, growing person. Uh, then I think that will help with bedroom boredom. And I have an app for this too. Maybe we'll talk about this at the tail end. But years ago, I made an app called Intimately Us that's chock full of novel and fun things you can
Mm.
do in the bedroom. It's a great app for a date night. It's a full of bedroom games essentially,
Tell us
and
now.
it's okay. So I have a background in software development. And when I was first getting into this space and I wanted to share with the whole world everything I was learning about how to make sex great, especially in long-term relationships, I didn't know how to like communicate it very well. I don't think I'm a good writer, can't write a book. At the time I didn't know how to podcast. All those like other things people that I or blog, I didn't know any of that. But I know how to make software. So I made an app and I wanted the app to be a game or like fun. And to my surprise, it took off. So it's called Intimately Us. It's free. It's for Android and iPhone. And there's all sorts of fun bedroom games you can play. Some of them are more on the goofy side. Some of them are more like very spicy. And you can also adjust the spiciness for whatever you want. So there's a collection of like maybe 8 or so games. There's also an intimacy calendar that's private between you and your partner, where you can like track things if you want to. It includes even a menstrual cycle tracker that helps with planning if you want for that. There's a fun feature. It's called Conquests. It's like a Google map with pins of you can drop all the places where you've done it and plan where your next conquests are going to be. There's a whole section on it's a sexploration list. It's a collection of quizzes that ask you like yes, no, maybe. Like, what do you think about, I don't know, in the back of the car? You might say yes, and your partner might say no, or they might say yes. It tells you where you match and where you don't match
Mm.
across a variety of things. That's the sexploration list. It also has a very in-depth how-to section. How to, you name it, like how to do this and this and this in bed. It's going to be very direct, very clear, but it's not raunchy and it's not pornographic.
Mm.
Oh, there's also a collection of sex position ideas, and they're all like stick figure drawings. So it's not pornographic, and it kind of gives you the general idea. So it's a place you can go like, okay, let's try something new. Or you can use it for foreplay to kind of like warm things up. Again, that responsive desire needs some sort of a stimulation first before desire shows up.
Mm.
Like, let's try some of these things. But the heart of the whole app is the concept that great intimacy is built in consistent small acts done over time than like big grandiose things once in a while. So every day you'll be given a intimacy challenge, something to challenge you to do something to and it takes 5 minutes or less, and there's a big variety of challenges there, but it's an action to take in your relationship that
Mm.
will improve intimacy that day.
I love that. Cool. I'll be downloading it for sure.
Yeah, great.
um, I guess as we close, I'm curious, what is one piece of advice that you wish every married couple you could offer before they stop prioritizing their intimate life? So before things start to go away, what advice would you give? Or maybe it has gone away.
Let me think. So a year ago, my wife and I were out of town, and she gets a text message that her cousin died. Her cousin was 29 years old, mom, three kids, like 7, 3, and like 1. She was driving, went through an intersection, and a drunk driver ran a red light, smashed her, died on the scene. It was tragic. And it was hard. It's really hard. This is like the cool cousin. This is like the cousin that everyone loves, like, because she's like such a bubbly personality. Like, everyone loved her. Mom to 3 girls, like how could this happen? And it was just a reminder for us on how precious life is. And you never know what tomorrow might bring. And I reflect on that, and I wonder, what was she and her husband, I don't know, but I speculate, what was their interaction like the night before as they're brushing their teeth and getting ready for bed together? Like, did they know it was going to be their last time together? And if they knew it was going to be their last time, what would have been said or not said, or how would that interaction have gone differently? And I don't mean to bring such a heavy mood to the end of this episode, but there is something about recognizing the preciousness of life and the gift of every day. The gift that you got to wake up today because someone else didn't.
Mm.
The gift that there's a person that shares a bed with you, because there's a lot of people out there that are lonely in bed. Mm. The gift that there's this other person in your life who cares about you, even though you might hate them at times, right? But there's also like that there's someone that cares about you. Like, that's a gift, and seeing the gift for what it is and the preciousness of life helps you kind of appreciate the here and now a little bit more. And if you can hold on to that feeling, I think it'll change the way you interact with your spouse just a little bit more. It'll make things a little more real. You'll probably be willing to take more risks, stop putting off things that you know ought to be addressed. You start addressing them. You'll start being more grateful. And I've never met a unhappy, grateful person. I've never met a happy person who's not grateful. Like, gratitude and happiness come together. So if that thought inspires a little more gratitude for the here and now, for the person in front of you, hold on to that. That it leads to more happiness, I think. I think that will help. So that's my one bit of advice for couples there.
I love that. Simple and a beautiful note to end on. Where can people find you, Dan?
So go to Get Your Marriage. I have a gift for your listeners, Stu.
Awesome.
So if they'll go to getyourmarriageon.com/Stu Murray, just your name, all one word, no hyphens, it's all lowercase, I will send you a gift. And this isn't just anything. I'll send you. I have 101 creative ways to initiate sex guide. It's like 30 pages long. I have 101 creative ways to spice it up guide, which is like 20 pages of stuff. I also have a jumpstart guide, which is like, okay, I want to improve our sexual intimacy. Where do we go next? I'll send you the link to the Intimately Us app that we just talked
Mm,
about. I'll also send you the link to another app which we didn't talk about, and it's a sexting app. It's a chat app just for you and your partner. Um, Double encrypted. It's designed that only they see what you send. There's absolutely no possibility of someone else seeing what you send each other. It's that app called Just Between Us,
mm.
and I have a few other items in there. So it's this like kit, like
Wow.
tons of great stuff. If you want to go buy those things individually on my site, you can pay for them too. It's like 30 or 40 bucks, but I'll give it all to you for free
Wow.
if you go to getyourmarriageon.com/Stumery.
Amazing. Well,
Oh, you'll
I'll be
find my
going there.
podcast there,
Okay.
and I also have my coaching program, which you'll find there.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. I'll be making sure that I sign up there, and it will all be linked down in the description in the comments so all the listeners can engage as well. Thanks for the offer.
Great,
And
yeah.
thanks for taking the time today. I love your perspective. I love the playfulness that you bring, the commitment that you clearly bring in your own relationship, and your passion for sharing that with others is beyond obvious. Ripples
Thank
through.
you.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan.